Let's talk about Jasnah. Jasnah Kholin, famous, beautiful, set in her ways, very strong woman. This character study will be from The Way of Kings, Words of Radiance, and Oathbringer, and then I'm going to give some character predictions for her for Rhythm of War. So this video will contain spoilers for the first 3 Stormlight Archive books, but not the 4th one, or the 5th one if you discover this video much later. Jasnah is not one of the main characters in the Stormlight Archive, at least not yet, but in some ways she is going to be more relatable for some readers than some of the other characters like Shallan. Shallan and Jasnah are so different, and a woman reading the Stormlight Archive may relate much more to Jasnah than to Shallan. Jasnah is very famous and she's very sought after for wardship. She doesn't really want a ward, and she specifically doesn't want Shallan. Shallan impresses her and she says, "Maybe I'll take you on, but do some research, come back to me, I'll take you when you're more ready." But Shallan does show some of the qualities that Jasnah values. Jasnah values intelligence, logic, education, learning, and determination. All these things that Shallan shows, and that impress Jasnah enough that she does take Shallan on. And though she might not have wanted Shallan in the first place, now that she has her, she will do her best by her. Jasnah isn't really a teacher-type personality, and she ends up teaching Shallan some really harsh lessons. But to be fair, Shallan does kind of teach her some harsh lessons in return, lessons Jasnah doesn't want to learn, because against all odds and against her own desire, she does end up coming to care for Shallan. And Jasnah, I think, is the type of woman who doesn't want to open up her heart to people. So the fact that she has let herself care for Shallan kind of upsets her. I think she feels a little rebellious against this. Like, how dare this little girl come in, wear me down, convince me to let her come into my life, and then let her come into my heart? Excuse me, this is not what I wanted. So we get to the point of Shallan's supposed suicide attempt. And this is going to hurt and cut deep any person that Shallan might have been with. But Jasnah, being someone not easy to open up herself to people, and the fact that somehow, against her wishes, Shallan made it into her heart, really, really cuts Jasnah deep. Because at this point in her life, Jasnah's in her 30s, she's 34 in The Way of Kings. She is very aware of what kind of woman she is. She's come to accept who she is, she's okay with it, but she also knows what people say about her, but she never thought that her own harshness could cause someone else to want to kill themselves. And this hurts. It's like proving all the people right who have always gossiped about her. See, you care more about your own scholarly pursuits than about other people. And that's not the kind of woman she ever meant to be, and she didn't think she was that type of woman. And we know as the readers that Shallan didn't really try to kill herself, but Jasnah doesn't know that. Jasnah's just beating herself up that she was so hard on Shallan, harder than she thought she was, harder than she thought Shallan could handle. And then, after going through all that, accepting that she has come to care for Shallan, thinking that she hurt Shallan so much, now she finds out that Shallan actually betrayed her. Now Jasnah gets to feel angry. Now she gets to feel justified in not wanting to take on a ward. Now she gets to feel justified in not letting people into her heart, because if she does, she just gets hurt. Also, Shallan is just like all the other people who only care about Jasnah because she's famous, because she has a soulcaster, because she's an atheist. Shallan is just like all of them. And again, Jasnah is wrong, but she doesn't know it. Yes, Shallan meant to betray her, but not for the reasons that Jasnah thinks. And because she came to care for Shallan, Shallan's betrayal is so much worse than if it had just been some other ward that her heart was not involved in. And when Jasnah decides to take Shallan back on as a different type of ward this time, it's not because of who Shallan is or anything about Shallan, except for what Shallan is. And up till now, Jasnah has thought that she was alone. She is the only one to have, up until now, bonded a Spren. She thinks she is the only Radiant. She is alone. And Shallan uses that knowledge to get Jasnah to take her back by saying that she can be somebody who knows. Jasnah doesn't have to study alone or worry alone or be alone in this. So strong and confident Jasnah now has young, naive Shallan as the only person to fully believe her about what is coming to Roshar. And the knowledge of what's coming is really weighing heavily on Jasnah. It is stressing her out, and just as she is starting to open up and share this burden with Shallan, she gets assassinated. That was a shock to me, by the way. It seemed like Jasnah was going to start to become more of a main character and a larger part of the story, and then she's just gone. What? Oh, but don't worry, she comes back at the end of Words of Radiance, so she's not really in book 2 much at all, except as the person who had some influence over Shallan and Shallan's story. But then when she finally gets back from Shadesmar, who knows what she's been doing there, but we can see just by her appearance that she's gone through quite a lot. She's worried about everything that she thinks has been going to happen, only to be met by Wit, who tells her, oh, by the way, Everstorm has hit. Already happened. Voidbringers are here. Don't worry, they found your Ritheroo. Shallan took care of it. So it's like all those things that Jasnah had been stressing over and worrying about and rushing and trying to get back from Shadesmar happened without her. She missed it. She thought she was going to have to be the one to get people ready and to deal with it, and it just happened without her. It's okay though. Her research was not for waste because Shallan knew what to do. And in book 3, when Jasnah arrives at Urithiru, she just jumps right back into things. She just kind of picks up where she left off. She finds out what the current events are, what's going on right now. Okay, now what do we deal with? Now what do we have to do? And I feel like in book 3, Jasnah becomes a stronger character, and I wonder how much of that has to do with being around her family. When we first meet her, she is kind of alone. She's not with anybody who cares about her. And now she's with her family again. And we know that she deeply cares for her family. She has a strong sense of duty, and she has a strong sense of patriotism. I also kind of feel like maybe she takes advantage a little bit of people being a little afraid of her. They're not used to a woman like Jasnah and someone like her being an atheist and taking such a strong stance on things, and Jasnah uses that to her advantage. Do not get into a verbal altercation with Jasnah because she will win. Here's something I was thinking about. Jasnah is the most advanced Radiant. She has been bonded with her Spren for the longest. She has lived for quite some time in Shadesmar. She is so knowledgeable. So why isn't she teaching the current Radiants and the Windrunner Squires? There's so much knowledge she could share with them. And I kind of feel like that was a missed opportunity in the books to have her teaching these others. She could even have a lot to teach Dalinar. But we kind of know Jasnah is more of a learner than a teacher. So it's probably not what she would have wanted to do anyway. But she is concerned about Renarin's Spren. That seems a little fishy to her. She is very knowledgeable about Spren, and something seems a little off about that situation. But she's kind of in her element here, because the emergency that she had been preparing for so long for has already hit. That is past. Now she doesn't have to worry about the Everstorm and the Voidbringers' first attack and first hitting. It has already happened. So instead of preparing for it, she can just dig in and do what needs to be done. And I see that as being much more to her liking and to her strengths. And then we see Jasnah get something that maybe she should have had in the first place when her father died, which is being crowned the ruler. Now, there were some good reasons not to crown her in the first place. Yeah, she was the eldest child of Gavilar, but she was a woman. She was an atheist, so the Ardents never would have stood for this. But we're in a different situation now. Now we're in a time of war. Everyone's understanding of how the world works has changed, and now it's okay to be led by a woman, someone who doesn't necessarily believe the same religious beliefs as everyone else. And I have to wonder how the war on the Shattered Plains would have gone differently if Jasnah had been in charge instead of Alethkar. They are totally different people, totally different methods, and we have been able to see that Jasnah is the kind of person who is willing to do what needs to be done. This is a trait that she shares with her uncle Dalinar and could make her a very interesting character in Rhythm of War. I do agree that now, at the end of Oathbringer, with everything that's happened, she is the best person for the job. Besides the kind of person she is also a Radiant, and she has a deep understanding of the emergency that's at hand. In this situation, they need a strong ruler, and Jasnah is a strong person. But I have not read Rhythm of War yet, and I'm really curious about her and who she becomes and how her character evolves in this next installment. We saw that she was willing to hunt down heralds and kill them because she thought that that would help. So with that attitude, in a time of war, what else will she be willing to do? We know her spren has faith in her and believes in her strength, but I'm not sure that her spren has quite a clear picture of who she actually is because he doesn't quite understand humans as well as he could. And I also wonder if her sexuality will come into play in the next book because she's a ruler now. She may be expected to make a political marriage. And we have definitely seen that she's not interested in romance. Luckily, political marriages don't need romance. But because she's open to either a man or a woman, maybe that opens up options for alliances with other nations. I don't know. Maybe it makes the Ardents even more upset with her because she won't want a traditional marriage. And maybe none of it will even matter. Maybe because of the type of woman she is and her sense of duty, she'll just marry whoever she needs to marry. Maybe she'll marry no one. Maybe she will say that being single is what's best for her country. But in this world and the way things work, I don't think that anyone would allow her to stay single. And will we learn more of her backstory in Rhythm of War? Will we learn more about this mysterious childhood ailment? It's kind of briefly mentioned, but never gone into detail. As much as we know about her, or as little as we know about her, there's still a lot more to learn. If you have read Rhythm of War, please don't put spoilers in the comments. And if you haven't read it, maybe take some guesses with me on what happens in the next book and what kind of person she does become. Thank you for watching this character study. You can follow me on Instagram, subscribe here for more character studies from science fiction and fantasy, and I'll see you next time. Bye!